Hey, this is Taz Street with Positive Out Loud. Today, I'm very excited about our guest. We have Nathan Walz with us. He is an optimal health coach who is talking about things that most people don't even know about that would make you really think about. And he is biohacking his health. In fact, he biohacked his health from really horrible health to amazing health. And now he's able to help you biohack your health so that you are going to feel better, you're going to feel stronger, you're going to have more energy from the inside out, because that's what's most important. And there's a lot of people out there who are talking about nutrition, who are talking about exercise, but today we have something very special. We're talking about where the core of our energy starts, and that is inside the mitochondria. And so Nathan, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you being here. So if you can tell,
hi, Taz. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So if you can tell the viewers here what we have on our eyes, or the type of glasses we have, and what's that all about?
Yeah, so we're wearing blue blockers, and the reason for that is because screens, which are everywhere today, emit a certain frequency of light, and most of that frequency is in the blue light range. And that frequency of light, it has a very deleterious effect on your hormones. So it reduces the amount of melatonin that you make. It causes insulin resistance. It causes all these different things. It's also being linked to blindness, age-related macular degeneration, uveal melanoma. So it's pretty bad news. And, you know, occasional blue light exposure isn't really going to do you too much harm, but most of us have chronic exposure. Mm-hmm. And for many of us, it's more, 10, 11, 12 hours a day, we're getting this blue light in our eyes. So by wearing these glasses, it reduces, or actually it blocks the blue light. So the ones I have on, I can't tell your color, Taz. Are yours orange or yellow?
They're more oranges.
More, okay.
Right.
So I have yellow ones, which I wear during the day. These block up to 450 nanometers of light. And then once the sun sets, I have some orange ones, which some of the orange ones out there block up to 500 nanometers. And then some block up to 550 nanometers, because that goes into green light. And green light can also impact your melatonin as well. So if you do spend a lot of time on the computer, or if you're on your phone a lot, or if you work in a building that doesn't have windows and you're under fluorescent lights or LED lights, because those kinds of lights also emit blue light, you might want to strongly consider getting some blue blocking glasses too.
Yeah, and I'll put a link below so everybody can take a look at the different types of glasses, and I'll have Nathan tell me which ones work really well. So I do work in a building that has no windows, that has the fluorescent lights, and I work in front of 2 computer screens all day long. So I'm starting to wear these, and I've actually felt a little bit better since I've had more energy after work, which is really interesting by wearing these glasses.
That's great. How about your sleep? How has that been?
Actually pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I've had pretty good sleep before that, but sometimes I would wake up 1 or 2 times during the night, but I haven't, which is interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's good. So Taz, just one other thing that I forgot to mention. So your thyroid's right here. If you do spend a lot of time in front of the computer, mm-hmm. you also want to cover your neck.
Okay.
So I do spend a lot of time on the computer, and when I'm on the computer, I have this black scarf, I just put it on like this. So I don't do it for like interviews or if I'm making videos, because it does look a little bit odd.
Right.
Women have a few more options, because they can just, there's all different kinds of scarves, and you can make a fashion statement. Men, you can just wear a collared shirt and button it up. But right. Thyroid disease is a huge problem in this country, and blue light, it can penetrate up to a couple centimeters into your skin and into your body. So your thyroid is just under your skin here. Mm-hmm. So just by being under fluorescent lights, by being on a computer all day, you're getting inflammation in your thyroid. And again, same with your eyes. Over time, it takes, for most of us, it takes several years, but over time you can develop thyroid disease, and all of a sudden you're feeling tired all the time. You can't lose weight. Your hair is brittle. It falls out, and all these different negative effects that none of us want to deal with.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I started probably, I would say, and it just started happening again. I have a little bit of what is that called, where your hair falls out in little spots? Alopecia?
Oh, alopecia?
Alopecia, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that I started getting a little bit, and it's not like I'm under, they say the reason you get it is because you're stressed out or whatever. And I haven't had hardly any stress in my life for a while now. So I'm wondering maybe if that's part of it. I don't know, but.
Yeah, well, just being under blue lights all day, that's another form of stress, which is causing inflammation.
Right.
And inflammation can manifest as all different things, alopecia being one of them.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Nathan. Tell us a little bit about where you were before you found out about all this knowledge that you have now. How was your health, and what did you do to help yourself get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I had a corporate job for 20 years. And about 10 years into my career, I noticed that my energy was starting to wane a little bit, and my sleep wasn't as good as it used to be. And I started getting indigestion, and these things started out slow. So occasionally I'd have a day where it's just like kind of dragging, need a few extra cups of coffee, a couple nights where I just wouldn't sleep that well. Every now and then I would eat, I would have, indigestion, or, have to run to the bathroom, things like that. But as time went on, these things became worse and worse. And I started having chronic back and neck and shoulder pain. I started having anxiety, a little bit of depression, brain fog. And I would go to my doctor every year, 18 months, and just be like, hey, doc, something's not right. I'm tired all the time. I've got these other things. The other thing, Taz, is I just had like a general lack of well-being. Mm-hmm. I just didn't have that pizzazz that I used to have. So I would tell my doctor, he would run the standard blood test. Everything always came back in the normal range.
Right.
So he just chalked it up to stress, to me working too hard. And I kind of took his word for it, but at the same time, I was doing a little bit of Googling, but not enough. And eventually I bumped into a friend of mine. I hadn't seen her in a while, and we were talking, and she was telling me like all these symptoms she was having. And her symptoms were pretty much just like mine. And she told me that she went to an integrative medicine doctor who ran all these tests on her. He tested her hormones, her vitamins, and like all this stuff. I was just like, you can do that? Because I didn't really know anything about any of this at that time. Mm-hmm. So I went, I saw this guy, we sat down, we spoke for about an hour. He tested me for everything. He took my blood, took saliva, took urine, took some poop, and just ran all sorts of tests. And I found out that I had Lyme disease, candida.
Oh, wow.
Mercury toxicity. My hormones were super low. A lot of vitamins and minerals were really low. Some other stuff too. And I was actually kind of excited because, after all these years of telling my doctor something wasn't right and him telling me that I was fine, and I looked healthy. I worked out. I ate relatively healthy, but there was room for improvement. But, I would tell my friends like, I'm going through this, and they would just look at me like I was crazy because I looked healthy to them.
What's great is that you went to this doctor and he spent an hour with you. I mean, what regular doctor out there spends an hour with any patient? I love that.
Yeah, it's very unusual. And my general practitioner, he spent a fair amount of time with me, and he was a great guy. I really liked him. Mm-hmm. I don't blame him at all. He wasn't properly trained in med school. And a lot of doctors these days, they're very frustrated. They want to help their patients, but they don't know how. What they were taught in med school doesn't give them the capabilities they need to help people heal and get better. Yeah,
because these doctors don't have any knowledge whatsoever about nutrition, right? They didn't take any classes about nutrition and when they went to school to be a doctor. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. I think maybe they have, a few hours of nutrition training. Mm-hmm. It used to be a lot more, I think pre-1950 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But most doctors, if you go to your family practitioner, they're not going to test you for hormones. Very few will test you for something like vitamin D, mm-hmm. which is huge. More and more doctors are now, but this is, this is going back 10, 15 years when I was being tested. But anyway, when I found this stuff out, I was happy because A, I wasn't crazy, B, I knew what I had so I could address it. Figured I would take some antibiotics for the Lyme disease and some supplements for the other stuff, and I'd be all better in a month or so. And what happened was I was just getting worse and worse. And probably like 4 or 5 months into it, I became very frustrated. I started doing a whole bunch of research on the internet. I tried different things. I went vegetarian. and I wasn't getting any success. I would have occasional weeks where things kind of felt better, but then all of a sudden I would go back to how I was. I ended up losing a whole bunch of weight. My brain fog got worse. I was having more anxiety, more kind of neurological issues.
Now, you went vegetarian because your doctor told you to, or because you thought that would be the best thing?
Because I was experimenting.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I was, there's so much conflicting information on the internet, right?
Oh, yeah.
I read some articles like meat is so acidic and inflammatory. And I was just like, oh, it's meat. That's what's keeping me sick. And I have some family members too that are vegetarians, and it works for them. I tried it; it did not work for me. And eventually, I came across a guy by the name of Dr. Jack Kruse. So, have you heard of Dr. Kruse, Des?
Well, when I started watching some of your videos, I saw you talk about him. So I started watching some of his videos a couple days ago, and he's just amazing. It's hard to understand him, though. It's hard to understand what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's a neurosurgeon, so he's a very brilliant guy.
Right.
And his blogs are extremely technical. And the reason they're so technical is because he has a lot of other doctors reading his blogs.
Okay.
So it needs to stand up to their muster. He has to have like a lot of sites, and he has to go into the science of the things he talks about. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I read one blog of his, and even though I didn't understand a lot of it, I knew this guy is different than everybody else I've come across.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I started following his protocols, and within a couple of weeks, I was definitely feeling better than I had in many, many months. So I continued down that path, and I've stayed on that path ever since, learning all I can from Dr. Kruse and other leaders and innovators in health and wellness as well.
So what was the first thing that you started doing when you said you started feeling better within a couple of weeks? What were some of the things that you started doing to help yourself in that aspect?
So the first two things I did, I made some dietary changes. His dietary recommendations is called the Epi-Paleo RX. So it's basically a paleo diet where a majority of your protein comes from seafood. And I always like seafood, so that was kind of a no-brainer for me. So I just, I'd been vegetarian, and my body had just been craving meat. I did eat a little bit of fish when I was vegetarian, but it was limited. So I just started eating a ton of seafood. I started eating meat again. I was eating healthy meat, so like grass-fed meat, and
right.
I was eating other proteins, but from healthy sources. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I did was cold thermogenesis. So within 2 weeks, I was doing full body submersion in ice baths, and that probably had the biggest impact on me.
Yes. I do the Wim Hof method, so I totally get it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you do full body submersion?
I do. I live like 5 blocks from a lake. So in the wintertime, it's really easy. You just go down there and get in the water.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome.
But otherwise, I just, I'll take a cold shower.
Yeah.
In the morning, I'll start off warm, and then I'll, slowly ease into the cold shower for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the best feeling ever is just getting in that cold water out in the lake. So. Yeah,
it really makes you feel alive, for sure. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in the beginning, those were the main things that I was doing. Then I got some kind of clunky blue blockers. They were, UVEX blue blockers, which not very fashionable. But, I started doing things like I learned about EMFs and how bad they are for you. And at the time, I was living in the DC metro area. Mm-hmm. So I was just surrounded by other people with, Wi-Fi, and lots of people with cell phones and devices. And the office building I worked in had Wi-Fi everywhere and under fluorescent lights. So I was just doing my best to really mitigate my exposure to EMFs, but it was very difficult living in DC. So,
I have an interesting story about that. I wanted to go back to school to get into programming, computer. I wasn't quite sure what direction I wanted to go into, but I was in this class with just computers everywhere. We were learning how to take computers apart, how to look inside, what they were about. Mm-hmm. And, I think I went to about 4 or 5 classes, and I just couldn't go inside that classroom anymore. I felt horrible. I felt like my whole body just wanted to shut down. I felt so weak and nauseated, and I had to get the money back from that semester, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I've never had that experience before. That was really bizarre.
Yeah. So you've got some form of EHS, electro hypersensitivity, and probably, I think the last stats I read, like 3 to 4% of the population is affected by that, to the point where anytime they're around higher magnetic fields or electric fields, they get some kind of symptom. Now, it affects all of us. For a lot of us, it's below our level of perception, but there's been numerous research studies done showing that, you know, these electric fields, magnetic fields, RF, which is radio frequency, which is wireless radiation from our phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, things like that, they affect us at the cellular level, and they impact our mitochondria, our hormones, and a whole bunch of things. So some people might look at that as bad, but for you, it's kind of good in a way, because your body has an early warning detection system telling you this is not a good environment for you to be in. And had your body not alerted you of that, and you went into doing that full-time as a profession, by the time you figured out how sensitive you were to it or how much harm it was doing to you, it could have been too late.
Yeah. I'm so glad that I had that. And it was kind of boring anyway, so I'm just so glad that I decided just to get out of that totally. But tell us a little bit about what mitochondria means and how is that so important to our health?
Yeah, so the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. We have anywhere from a couple hundred to several thousand mitochondria in our cells. And you've got the biggest concentration of mitochondria in your heart and in your brain. So what's the number one killer today, Taz? In the
US? Heart disease and...
Heart disease.
Yeah.
Yeah. So neurodegeneration is number 3. Cancer is right up there. Cancer. So all of these things, they're actually mitochondrial diseases.
Okay.
So your mitochondria, they create all of your power, or most of your power. They create ATP, which is a store of energy. So when your heart isn't making enough ATP, that's heart disease. When the mitochondria in your brain aren't working well, that's neurodegeneration. And it can happen in different parts of your brain. So if it happens in your frontal lobes, that's where you make a lot of your dopamine, but that is Alzheimer's disease. You make a lot of your also make dopamine back here. When you get too much inflammation or mitochondrial failure back here, that's Parkinson's disease.
Oh, wow.
And these diseases are showing up on people younger and younger. It used to be a disease of the old. And think about when you were a kid, how many people did you know with Alzheimer's disease? Or Parkinson's?
Not very many. Yeah, not very many.
Or how about cancer?
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why are these diseases so rampant? You know, I mean, there's got to be a reason behind all of this.
Yeah, and there is. So, but these diseases, they came out of nowhere. So like the younger generation, to them it's normal because they were born, they were seeing people with all these diseases. But for us, when we were younger, it was very rare. There were people that had cancer, but it was like you occasionally would hear about it. And most of the funerals you would go to when you were a kid were for old people, right?
Exactly, right.
Now, you know, there was a 3-year stretch when I went to 4 funerals, and all of those people were in their 50s. And it wasn't because they fell off a building or got hit by a car. They died from a disease. So you have to ask yourself, you know, why is all of a sudden in just a couple generations we're going from these diseases being rare to being commonplace?
Right.
And a big driver, one of the drivers is blue light. So we went, you know, another thing, when we were kids, the main light source were, what kind of light bulbs did you have when you were a kid?
Gosh, just the regular round, what are they called?
Yeah, incandescent light bulbs.
Incandescent, yeah.
Yeah. And they have, when you look at the spectrum of light from incandescent light bulbs, they have a little bit of blue and a lot of red. Okay. And red, part of the red spectrum is heat. And that's why they're inefficient, because a lot of that energy is converted to heat or light that you can't see, but you can feel it, especially if you go to touch that light bulb. But that red light is very healing. It helps regenerate. Now we're moving to light bulbs that are energy efficient. You can touch them. They don't put off any heat. So LED bulbs, fluorescent bulbs, spend less money on electricity, but they have a high amount of blue light.
Oh, okay.
Creates a lot of inflammation or reactive oxygen species. You may have heard of that. That's inflammation. And that inflammation translates to these diseases that we're seeing today. So that's one major source. The other major source are EMFs.
Right.
We didn't grow up with cell phones as kids. Most households had one television, maybe two televisions. Today, a lot of houses have 3, 4, 5 televisions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just talking like average people here. You know, there are houses with 20, 30 TVs, but most people have.
I just have one. One's good. One's enough for me.
Yeah. But you probably have a computer too, right?
Yeah, of course.
And a smartphone. So we've got all these additional screens or different sources of blue light that didn't exist. You know, even though like the iPhone didn't come around till 2007.
Right. So
prior to the iPhone, people didn't spend a whole lot of time on their phones because it was a total pain in the butt to text. So you had 3 letters per number. The number had 4 letters. And there wasn't much else to do on your phone besides try to do a text or talk.
Well, now everybody's on their phone just walking down the street or in the restaurant, or they're on their phones constantly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got, not only when you're on your phone, not only are you getting that blue light on your eyes, on your thyroid, on your skin, you're also getting that wireless radiation too, which our mitochondria, they're amazing, but they're very sensitive. Your mitochondria, I'll try not to get too technical here, but your mitochondria are actually ancient bacteria that are billions of years old.
Wow.
And if you go back to the beginning of time, you had, bacteria, you had prokaryotes and archaea, which were just single-celled organisms. Those two merged to form eukaryotes, which over millions and billions of years evolved into the life that we see today with humans and all the animal life. So basically, that ancient bacteria became our mitochondria. So we have a symbiotic relationship with that mitochondria. We keep the mitochondria alive, and it keeps us alive. But what happens is mitochondria have a circadian rhythm. So for billions of years, the only light they saw was from the sun, a little bit of light at night from stars and the moon. But now at night, we have all these different light sources. We also have electricity running through our walls. So we have all these sources of electric fields and magnetic fields, which our mitochondria are very sensitive to. And I'll give you just a really quick analogy to show how sensitive they are. Do you know that the Earth has a magnetic field?
Yes.
Yeah, so most people know that, but you know it because somebody told you, not because you're walking along the Earth and you felt it, right?
Right.
So do you know the frequency of the Earth's magnetic field?
I don't know.
It's 7.83 hertz.
Okay.
Right around there, but that's the average. Now your brain has different kinds of brain waves. When you're in a relaxed state, when you meditate, when you're creative, your brain makes lots of alpha waves. Now they have a frequency too. Guess what that is?
Gosh, I have no idea.
7.83 hertz.
Oh, wow.
So do you think that's a coincidence? Or do you think that our bodies can, on some level, sense the magnetic field of the Earth and sync to that? Yeah, so we have a very deep connection to the Earth, or at least we used to. And now most of us spend a majority of our time indoors, disconnected from the Earth, disconnected from the sun. Disconnected
in our little boxes. We get in our little box to work, come home to our little box. Yeah. So did you biohack your health by being outside a lot, getting into nature? Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah. So it's, my health continues to improve.
Right.
So within a couple of years, I was better than I had been, and as long as I could remember. But what happened, Taz, was I got to a point, I kind of had my midlife crisis. I ended up going through a bad divorce. I decided to leave my job, to move out of DC. I moved to upstate New York to a more rural area.
Okay.
And I decided to work with other people who were having challenges with their health to help them turn things around and just feel good again.
Okay.
Live lives worth living. So when I lived in DC, it was much harder to spend time in nature. I would go hiking on weekends and stuff, but I had to get in the car and drive, and it wasn't super simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would go for walks and stuff in Virginia where I lived. But living in New York, I've spent a lot more time outside grounding, going on hikes in nature, and just getting a whole lot more sun. So from making that change, from leaving the big city of DC, living in a more rural area and spending more time outdoors has been very life-changing for me.
Now, I know that Jack talks about getting outside when the sun rises and looking up at the sun for the ultraviolet rays. Is that something that you do, everyone? Is that something that has helped you a lot?
Yeah. So in the morning, there's no UV light from the sun. It's, you know, all the colors of the rainbow. So it's mostly red, green, blue with the colors in between. And there's infrared light too.
Okay.
So the whole reason Jack says to get out and watch the sunrise is because that sets your circadian rhythm.
Okay.
Your body runs on a 24-hour clock, and it's very precise. So as the day goes on and the frequencies of light change, it activates different programs in your body. So in the morning, you get a signal from the sun. When you get that blue light from the sun, it sends a signal to your pituitary gland to release hormones.
Cool.
So there's a certain color temperature, I think it's like 1500 in the morning when you're watching a sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the fake lights today in screens have a color temperature of between 5700 and 6200 Kelvin,
wow,
which is the same color temperature of around noon. So a lot of us, very few people get up and look at the sunrise. What do most people look at first thing in the morning when they wake up?
Their phone.
Look at their phone, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they get these frequencies of light in their eye that are telling their brain that it's noon.
Mm-hmm.
So your circadian rhythm is completely thrown off. And over time, your body, your pituitary gland, it gets the on switch to make hormones, but UV light, which comes about 30, 45 minutes after sunrise, is a signal to your brain to stop producing hormones. So when you never get that off switch, when you never go outside, when you do go outside, but you have sunglasses on for like the 2 minutes from your house to your car and then from your car to your office or whatever, you're not getting that signal that, okay, I've produced enough hormones. Now it's time to turn that off. So your body is continually producing hormones. And a lot of people, so you can go for a pretty long time being around these sources of blue light where it's actually energizing because it activates your cortisol. It can activate adrenaline. It's turning on your hormones. So in the beginning, you have higher levels of hormones. You're feeling pretty good. But as time goes on, your body gets fatigued. It's producing less hormones. Now you have low hormones and you start to crash.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I tried getting up in the morning since I've been learning about this, getting up in the morning and watching the sunrise. And not only does it feel good, I mean, it's just so relaxing just being out in nature. But I'm just excited to see what type of changes will happen once I keep doing that and keep putting myself out there and grounding. I don't have any, but you know, my question is, I live in Seattle, so it's hard to see the sun most of the time because it's gray out here pretty much all winter. So is the sun, you'll still get the same effects, correct?
It's not as nice. It's definitely nicer seeing the actual sun and not clouds, but you still get the benefits. So yeah. The frequencies of light come through. You get less UV light.
Okay.
But you do get the red light. And remember, red light and infrared light is regenerative.
Right.
And that light can literally penetrate your skin. Red light can penetrate your skin up to 30 centimeters.
Oh, wow.
And all those rays of light are going into your skin. It's below your level of perception. So the fewer clothes you have on. So in the morning, you want to be as naked as you can be. So you're getting more of those rays penetrating your skin. It goes into your cells. And that light, just that light, creates energy. Your mitochondria use that light to create energy. The same way a plant does. Mm-hmm. Right? So when plants get sun and they get a lot of rain, they grow really fast through photosynthesis. Mm-hmm. We do the same thing. It's a little bit different, but plants grow just from the energy of light. Humans, we don't necessarily grow taller and grow leaves like plants, but we use that to generate new cells. So what is aging? Aging is unrepaired damage. Mm-hmm. So when your body has some kind of damage and you're healthy, it regenerates. It rebuilds those cells. If you need new hormones, it generates hormones. when you don't make enough energy, when your body starts to get older, you don't repair these cells. That's when you age. That's when things start to break down and you get disease.
Right. Well, you just look at the trees outside. I mean, just to everybody out there, they're grounded in the earth, and then the leaves and everything, the canopy up top is getting all the sun ray and the water. So I think those three things are really what we really need, is the water, the sun, and the grounding, right?
100%. The other thing you said is when you watch the sunrise, it's very relaxing. And the reason for that is because you have two sides to your nervous system. There's parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, and there's sympathetic, which is fight or flight. So most of us spend our entire lives in fight or flight, which through evolution was only meant to be used in the short term. You know, when we're out in nature and we see a lion, that's fight or flight. Run your ass off or you're going to get eaten. Or if, you know, there's somebody that's trying to kill you or something. Now we're in fight or flight from our emails, from being stuck in traffic, and it's constantly on. But just by doing something like watching the sunrise, looking out your window at trees or a river, if you have a nice view, that activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which puts you in rest and digest. It helps to kind of counterbalance the fight or flight, which most of us get stuck in.
Or just simple breathing, breath work, right?
Yeah, that's huge too. Yeah, there are many ways to do it.
Yeah. But nature is free and it's beautiful, so why not do it that way? I mean,
yeah, 100%.
We're meant to be out there. So, wow, this is so simple. And that's what I love about it. It's so simple and it's so easy to do. And I guess a lot of people will make up excuses to not do it. Am I correct? I mean, have you had those issues where you're trying to help clients and they're just not getting out there?
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to breaking bad habits. Because a lot of us don't intuitively come up with this on our own. I didn't realize it. I was just going through life and just, busy with work, focused on that. And I wasn't really paying attention to the fact that I had completely disconnected from nature for the most part. So, a lot of people think they don't have a choice when they do. A lot of people think I don't have time to spend time in nature, but then you ask them how many TV shows they watch. And when you add it up, it's 6, 7, 10 hours a week.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we all have a choice. We can make excuses for why we can't do something, or we can figure out how to do it and get better results.
So how important is it to get that light or, from the sun compared to like our diet? I mean, if you look at both of those together.
So you're saying for your body to make energy from sun versus food?
Right.
So technically, you're making 1/3 of your energy from food and 2/3 from sunlight.
Wow.
So
if you hear that, 2/3 from sunlight, folks, that's important.
Yeah. So you tell me, if you never get any sunlight, how big of an impact is that on your health?
So about how many hours a day are you out in the sun?
Well, this time of year, much less. We just had a week of rain. My weather's probably pretty similar to yours, Taz. I'm on the East Coast. I'm in upstate New York.
Right.
It's dark and cloudy a lot in the winter. We get a lot of rain. And today was sunny, so I was outside for a couple hours today. During the summer, I'm out a lot.
Right.
In the winter, I'm out less, and I can feel the difference. I do have a little bit of a cold right now.
Yeah.
Because I spent the last week inside, and I've just been busy, so I've been in front of the computer probably 10 hours a day.
Wow.
And, my sleep hasn't been as good. My energy's been a little bit lower. But, as the winter goes on, I'll start doing more cold thermogenesis. I'll force myself outside more, and I'll start to get better energy levels. It's not as good as they are in the summertime, but one of the things I do to help kind of mitigate my lack of sun is I do more cold exposure.
That cold exposure feels so good. I mean, I wish I could just let people feel it without them doing it, because I just don't feel as alive as when you get out of that water after you've been in that cold water. It's just all the dopamine and speaking of dopamine, tell us a little bit about that and how important that is, and how do you biohack the dopamine for your life?
Absolutely. So Taz, real quick, for people that don't want to quite take the plunge, a really easy way to do it is just fill up a bowl with ice water. So fill it up with cold water out of your tap, put a couple trays of ice cubes in there, maybe start with one tray, hold your breath, put your face in there. Do it for as long as you can, and do that for a total of 5 times. Do that first thing in the morning. Guarantee you're going to be woken up so much more than you are from your Starbucks or your Red Bull or your Monster drink, whatever it is.
Right.
But that is literally life-changing. And just doing that practice is going to start a biochemical change in your brain to help your body adapt to cold and be better off with the cold.
Absolutely. And getting into the cold, it just really boosts your immunity. Like, I don't even know by how much percent, but I know it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. It's huge.
I've seen people getting sick around here, and I haven't, because I try to get that cold water on me in the shower every morning. So
yeah, it's huge. So back to dopamine. The best way to make dopamine is getting morning sun. So about 30 minutes after sunrise, you get UVA light enters the spectrum, and UVA light is available year round. So UVB goes away at the end of, sometime in the fall, depending on where you live. Some people get UVB year round, but those of us in the north, we don't have UVB light in the wintertime, but we do have UVA. So when UVA light goes in your eye, it makes things like dopamine, which gives you drive, motivation, serotonin, which helps you be happy, and melatonin, which helps you have that better sleep.
Right. So when we go on vacation to like Mexico or, on the beach, and we love going to the beach on vacation, we're out for 4 or 5 hours in the day, and then we come and take a little nap, and then we go back out for a little bit more. And I tell you, that's the best feeling. That's the best feeling ever. I'm so relaxed that night and so relaxed during the day, and you feel so happy. That's all because we're connecting to nature, right?
100%. Yeah. So you're getting all that sun, you're grounded. Mm-hmm. You're not working. So most people think it's because they're not working and you don't have the stress of work. Right. But it's the main thing when you go to the beach, it's grounding and light.
Yeah. So, people they blame all their stress on work. That's really not. I mean, we're meant to go and be creative and put ourselves out there and give to the world. I mean, that's part of our nature, but we're also meant to be connected to the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So for dopamine, you make it the way you make it is just getting outside in nature. Glasses off. Get rid of your sunglasses. If you spend a lot of money on them and you can't bear to get rid of them, you can wear them. Just wear them like this. Or if you need them for driving, only use sunglasses for safety reasons, so you don't crash or something. But other than that, get rid of your outside glasses. You can get some fancy orange or yellow glasses to wear inside. So use light to make dopamine. Other good ways are cold thermogenesis. That helps your body make more dopamine. Spending time in nature. Hanging out with people that rise you up and don't bring you down. Right. So there's 2 parts of it. You want to be making more dopamine, and you want to avoid using your dopamine up prematurely. So chronic blue light exposure, that decreases your dopamine. Hanging out with people that stress you out, that destroys your dopamine. Any kind of stressful thing is going to impact your dopamine. So you want to look at, doing these things, spending time in nature, getting that natural light in your eyes to increase it, and reducing your different sources of stress so you're not using it up as fast. And a lot of technology today, it's extremely addictive. So when you go on Facebook and you see a like, you get a little hit of dopamine. You go on Instagram, you have some likes there. That's a few more hits of dopamine. So it makes you feel good, but you're using up your dopamine. And I don't know how closely you follow the mental health of children, Taz, but we're seeing unheard of, record levels of mental health issues in children. Yeah. The driver of that is because these kids are already addicted to these screens at a very young age.
Right. Getting all that blue light, no protection, and all the likes, and right. Yeah. And that's how they're looking at who they are is by how many people like them, or, you know, how cool they are. And, you know, yeah, we have that already before the phones, but yeah, it gets worse with the phones because they have all this self-image to uphold.
Yeah, it's a whole nother layer that I didn't even bring up.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, so if somebody's wearing prescription eyeglasses, is that okay to wear outside and you'll still get the light through that?
Well, so if you're really blind and really need your glasses, you can kind of put them down a little bit like this. So the sun's above, you're still going to get the sun in your eyes. If you need to see, you can just do this.
Okay.
So yeah, if you do have prescription glasses, you know, and you can't drive without them, then have them on when you're driving. But, you know, this is like a kind of a little hack you can do, because most glass blocks UV light.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit passes through glass, but most lenses block UV light because we've been told our whole lives that UV light is the bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
you get to get a new set of glasses without the block, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the lens maker.
Right.
But most lenses you buy today are blocking UV light.
Wow. Because we all thought we were helping each other out here.
Yeah.
Crazy. I've always found it real interesting because I've always liked not wearing sunglasses. And I started wearing sunglasses probably the last couple of years when we go on vacation, just because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But I always really actually enjoyed the sun being in my eyes. I mean, not too much of it, you know, because you don't want to get blinded, but I've always liked it.
Yeah, well, keep on following your intuition, Beth.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. So tell us a little bit about, I mean, because I think people would find this interesting. How does sex help us with biohacking our health as well? And how does that work with the hormones in our bodies?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So sex is another great way to make dopamine. So I'm talking about sex with a person, not just you and the computer watching other people have sex.
Right.
But having physical contact. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on. You're creating oxytocin, which is another hormone. It's the love hormone. But your body is also releasing light. So you're releasing not only infrared light, but your eyes also release UVA light. So just by making eye contact with someone, have you ever had somebody look at you and smile and all of a sudden you feel really good?
Yeah.
So it's not just because they smile at you and you think, oh, that person's so nice, which you know, that's part of it. But when you look at somebody, when you make eye contact with someone, it's not going to work through the computer. But in person, and you know, if you're making love to somebody, or you know, you're with your partner and you're looking at each other eye to eye, you're exchanging light. That light going from your eye into their eye is making different hormones. So it's making dopamine, it's making oxytocin, serotonin. So these are all feel-good hormones.
Right.
These are all hormones that we all need more of. They make us feel more connected to other people, and they make us feel better in general. And they counterbalance the stress hormones of things like cortisol and adrenaline.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second here. I'm going to pause it for a second. I got somebody at the door.
Okay.
Oh, he's leaving. It was just the Amazon guy. We're good. So that doesn't mean that we can go out there and just have somebody next to us while we're looking at our phone and then look at each other's eyes and get a little bit of dopamine and then use a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question, Taz. It'd be a very interesting.
I think I lost the sound on you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, so what I said was that would be a very interesting experiment. If you are going to be spending a lot of time on your phone anyway, you are going to help kind of mitigate it by, you know, kind of looking around, making eye contact with other people, smiling.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, most people glued to their phone aren't going to do that. Let's face it.
No, it's great. Even the neighbor, some of the neighbors' kids that I know that walk around, I'll be walking to my car, getting in my car, and they're just walking by, and they don't even make eye contact or say hello, or it's kind of sad, actually, because they're so involved in their own mind and their own phone. And
yeah, well, the truth is parents really need to get a handle on this, because for a lot of kids, the parents are going to have a rude awakening because their kids are going to be in their 20s. They don't have a job. They're not in a relationship because they can't communicate with anyone. And they have these serious health issues. And this is not hyperbole. It's already happening. So parents really need to start to educate themselves. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Taz's word for it. But spend some time doing some research. There's plenty of really good internet sites out there. EH Trust is a very good one. Dr. Deborah Davis, who's done... she's a PhD. She's done a ton of research, but she just has a ton of resources on her website, so you can kind of look into and better understand what exactly this is doing, not only to your kids, but to you too. And it was really interesting. On October 26th, the New York Times had 3 different articles, and it was talking about how Silicon Valley execs and people in Silicon Valley, they're sending their kids to schools that don't allow any technology. So no tablets, no laptops, no smart boards. They're reading books with pages, paper pages in them, and they're having to write with pens and pencils and stuff like that. They are also making their nannies sign contracts that they will not allow their children to be exposed to any screens. And there was a third one talking about, I believe it was the rise in mental health issues. But it was amazing that the New York Times had 3 different articles on the same day talking about this issue. So people need to ask themselves, if the big shots in Silicon Valley that are making these technologies, creating these different software and applications that they're selling to the rest of us, and they're happy to take our money for them, but they won't allow their children to use it, you need to ask yourself, okay, why is that? What's going on here?
Right.
You also need to look at some of the big tech execs who have left this world too soon. Steve Jobs, he died in his 50s. Paul Allen, I think he was in his early 60s or something like that. So these billionaires with access to the best doctors in the world, they don't have to complain about the cost of organic food. To them, it's a non-issue. So they have access to all these things that other people don't have access to, and yet they're dying far, before their time.
In fact, I think Steve Jobs, wasn't he a vegetarian? I mean, he was a really health fanatic kind of guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he died of cancer.
Yeah, pancreatic cancer.
Right. But, he worked a heck of a lot, I'm sure, and he was constantly around EMFs and computers and blue light. And
yeah, but did you know that he did not allow his children to use iPhones or iPads?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't.
So they know something we don't know.
They know something we don't know. Exactly.
So I'm sure some of this stuff is kind of hidden from, all these things that people should know, or is hidden because people want to sell these products, right?
Well, it's actually not hidden. So if you read the, when you get a phone, if you read the manual, the phone tells you not to put it against your skin. And how many people do you see talking on their phone like this?
Right.
It says to hold it like 1.5 inches from your face. Nobody talks on their phone like this. These very few people. No. If you just do a Google search, if you go to the NIH or PubMed database of all these different, all this medical literature, there's plenty of articles in there showing the connection between blue light and all these different things we're talking about. Insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes and obesity, blindness, different cancers. There's also plenty of published data on the deleterious effect of wireless radiation. So it's not hidden. It's there if you look for it. But people don't want to believe that something as cool as technology, because let's face it, it's cool as shit. It's very life-changing. But nobody wants to admit that this could be harming them. It's not like cigarettes. But even cigarettes, Taz, if you think about it, we had people in the 1920s and 30s saying that cigarettes were bad for you. And they were called kooks. We had published research in the 50s saying that tobacco causes cancer. And it wasn't until 1964 that the Surgeon General came out and said that tobacco is linked to cancer. And they just made them put it on cigarette packs.
Took years. Yeah.
What's that?
So it took many, many years before them to actually put that out there, yeah.
So the Surgeon General came out in 64. I graduated high school in 1989. My high school had a smoking square where kids of age were able to smoke cigarettes at school. This was in the late 80s.
Wow.
It wasn't until the 2000s where we started seeing tobacco-free campuses, banning cigarettes at restaurants, and there are still states that allow cigarettes. So cigarettes, which have caused millions and millions of deaths, it took 40, 50 years to really do anything actionable. And there are still states that allow you to smoke in restaurants and bars. Right here in the US, right? So how long is it going to take? And cigarettes are gross, right? They're stinky. There's nothing very appealing about cigarettes, but technology is cool as shit. So if it took 40, 50 plus years for cigarettes, how long is it going to take for technology?
Right. So is there anything that you can put on your phone to mitigate that?
Yeah, there are some things. So I have a device on my phone. It's called R2L, which is radiation to light. So it converts excess cell phone radiation into, there's a little red LED on it, and the LED will light up when it has an excess of radiation. So that reduces it some, but it's still not, I still avoid carrying it on my person as much as possible. So you can reduce it, but you're still surrounded by other people's cell phones. So you really just need to be aware of it. And if you're sensitive to it, you need to start to avoid, going to rock concerts where you're in, a pavilion or surrounded by thousands and thousands of other people that all have their phones on, or like a sporting event, things like that.
So with the cell phone itself, where do you carry it if you don't carry it on yourself?
So if you have to put it on your person, then put it in airplane mode.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I know you have a youngster. I have a toddler. If I'm expecting a call or something from my significant other, I'll carry my phone in my hand rather than put it in my pocket.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you have to have your phone on in your hand, as far away from your body as possible, that's the safest way to do it.
It's better to talk on speakerphone.
Yeah, you want to talk on speakerphone. You can get, if you need some privacy, I've got these are called air tube headphones. So this is just air. There's no wire in this part. It's just air. So kind of like a doctor's stethoscope. So this way, because right now, that wire going into your ear, it's transmitting some of the radiation from your computer to your head. Unless they're air tubes. But
no, these aren't air tubes. No.
Yeah. So you want to get something like air tubes if you need privacy, or if you're using earbuds a lot.
Okay.
So you can reduce that exposure even further. But speakerphone is ideal.
Wow, air tubes. Those are interesting. Yeah, I'll put a link below. I'll find those on Amazon and put a link below for people who are.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. You can get a really cheap pair for $10 or $15, and you can spend a little more if you need higher fidelity.
Right. Who knew? So what are some other things that we need to look out for with the EMFs? Like at home, should we turn off our Wi-Fi signal when we're sleeping, or?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So the easiest thing to do is to put a timer, plug your Wi-Fi into a timer, like a Christmas light timer.
Right.
So if you go to bed every night, let's say you go to bed at 10 and you get up at 6, have your Wi-Fi turn off every night at 10 and then turn back on at 6. That way you don't have to think about it. You're not, forget about it.
Right. And
you're going to have a deeper, more quality sleep. Now for me personally, I don't have Wi-Fi. I have my router's over there, and I have a LAN cable running on the perimeter of my office to my laptop over here. I do have a little mini wireless router, if somebody comes over and they want to use an iPad or something, and I have an iPad, if I need to use my iPad, I'll turn it on just for that. But otherwise, I don't have that going on in my apartment. Now, my neighbors do, so I do get impacted by that.
Right.
You want to do the best you can in your own environment. Another thing I do at night is I turn off my circuit breaker that goes to my bedroom, because the electric wires in your walls are putting off magnetic fields. So if you can't do that, you want to make sure that your head is not right next to an outlet. And if you can move your bed, 6 to 12 inches away from the wall, you're going to give yourself some more space. You're going to make it a little safer. Now, another thing to be aware of are things like, so I have a printer behind me, and all printers today that they sell have a wireless capability. So even though my printer is hardwired, so you want to get some meters. So for example, this is a meter that you can test for wireless radiation. And the way I found out about my printer was I was just going around my apartment, and I was getting a huge signal on this. And I had my phone in airplane mode. I didn't have any Wi-Fi on. And what I figured out was it was from my printer. Even though it was turned off, the screen was blank. But since printers are wireless, they're sending out a signal looking for that computer to connect to it.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's a very powerful wireless signal. So when I'm not using my computer, it's unplugged.
Also unplug it. Okay, I'll do that.
You have to unplug it.
Awesome.
Same with with TVs. Today, when you buy the TV, they're smart TVs.
I have a smart TV, right?
Yeah. So when you're not using your TV, you want to unplug it as well.
Oh, wow.
So any kind of smart appliance is made to communicate with networks. So it has the ability to receive information, but also to send information. So you want to be aware of that. You want to, a lot of people, when you have people over for friends over for dinner or something, lots of people kind of congregate to the kitchen. So you don't want to be leaning against the dishwasher if it's running, or the refrigerator, because all these appliances also put off very big magnetic fields.
Yeah, I know my refrigerator makes a ton of noise all the time, so I would imagine, it does that. And of course, you definitely don't want to be using the microwave.
Right. And if you do use it, some people just can't break themselves from the microwave habit. They're never like stare inside the screen waiting for it, watch you go in circles. But most microwaves are leaky. And there's another meter I have, but when I started learning this stuff, I still had a microwave. I didn't use it. Actually, no, I didn't have a microwave. My significant other had one, and I tested hers. And the fields it puts out is huge, because most microwaves, if the seal degrades and it leaks a lot of radiation. So if you do use one, especially if you have a child and you're trying to make some food real quick and you're holding your child, start the microwave and give yourself some distance.
Right. Wow, this is a lot to learn for everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot. But, you start with a few things.
Right.
And you make them a part of your life. You make them a part of your lifestyle. And next thing you know, that's just how you live your life. And it becomes normal for you.
Well, that's why when you hear about people going out and visiting like these tribal cultures out that live in nature, that's why they're so fit and they feel so good and they have tons of energy, because they're living close to the land and they don't have all the electrical gadgets that we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can only imagine. So can you tell us a little bit about what your day looks like? I mean, from the morning until the evening of what you're doing to keep yourself healthy?
So I have a morning routine. So first thing every morning I get up. I used to watch the sunrise, but now with the earth tilting where I live further from the sun, I can't catch the sunrise from my balcony in my apartment anymore. But I still sit there. So I am getting that natural light, but I have a gratitude practice. I do some meditation. I'll do some kind of light stretching and some things just to get my blood flowing. I do my best to spend some time outside, take some breaks, though there are periods of time where I'm not very good about it. I get very busy like the rest of us. And, I'll feel it for sure. But in the summer, I'm much better about it. You know, I'll do some work on the balcony of my apartment, or I'll just go for more walks.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the main thing I do to just keep myself feeling good is just spending some time outside.
And how many vacations do you take a year, you know, to get out to the beach, that sort of thing?
Well, since having a child, I haven't really gone on like a beach vacation in a while, though I think we're going to go in December.
Cool.
But previous to that, I definitely went more often.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you what, that helps.
At night, you know, you want to watch the sunset as well. And that's a really good way to help prepare yourself for sleep. But some other things, so during the day, when I'm inside on the computer, I have most of my skin covered. Because remember, the light it doesn't just impact your eye. The eye is the most important thing to protect, but you want to cover up your skin as well. But if I go outside, even if it's cold, I want as much skin exposed as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also, now that it's getting cold out, I'll do cold baths just in my bathtub because it's more convenient. I will try to go outside and getting cold, but it's not as convenient. You know, I do have to drive, so
right.
You know, I'll do it once in a while, but just not as often as I'd like. But then once the sun sets, you know, wearing my orange glasses, you know, if I'm on the computer at night, I'll put my hood up because, you know, I've got a bald head, so I want to protect my noggin, and you know, I cover as much skin as I can at night once the sun goes down. Right. So it's in my apartment, it's not a big deal, but you know, if I go out for dinner, I'm not going to have my hood up and stuff like that. I do wear my orange glasses at night, but those are just a couple things that are part of my lifestyle.
So what would you recommend for water? What type of water do you drink, and then how much?
I drink mostly reverse osmosis water.
Mm-hmm.
If I do buy water, I buy Mountain Valley, Icelandic water is good, Gerolsteiner. Those are the main ones that, you know, if I purchase water, I'll drink. But my main day-to-day water, I just buy from the grocery store. I just refill jugs with reverse osmosis water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a good hack is I always put, you know, you can see my water looks a little cloudy. I'll always squeeze some lemon or lime in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that vitamin C is very good for your mitochondria, and vitamin C is good for your immune system too.
Okay.
So I used to drink about 3 liters of water a day. Now, are you familiar with deuterium? I
am, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. So for your listeners that may not have heard of deuterium, it's an isotope of hydrogen. So there's 3 forms of hydrogen. Our body uses 2 of them. So there's light hydrogen, which is just a proton and an electron. And then there's deuterium, which is also hydrogen, and it's a proton, electron, and neutron. So an electron doesn't really have any mass. So basically, deuterium has twice the atomic mass as light hydrogen. So a big source of deuterium is from water. So even if you're drinking a quality water, that's still about 130 to 145 parts per million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tap water or soda, things like that, are like 155, 160 parts per million, which it doesn't sound like a big difference, but it's a very, you know, that extra 10 parts is a very big difference.
Okay.
So I recently heard an interview with Dr. Boros, who's one of the leading researchers on deuterium, and he was saying how he drinks very little water.
Yeah, I saw that interview as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll have, you know, a cup of coffee in the morning, but he eats a very high-fat diet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the really interesting thing about fats is, you know, a lot of people still think saturated fat is unhealthy for you, but your body, you have 2 different kinds of water in your body. You have the water you drink, and you have the water that you make. So your mitochondria, in addition to making ATP, they also make carbon dioxide, which you breathe out. Then the plants use that, and they turn it back into oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
But your mitochondria also make water. So I saw Dr. Boros speak last June in Vermont, and he said, most people think the main role of mitochondria is to make energy. He said it's not. The main role of your mitochondria is to make water. So the water that your mitochondria make is metabolic water. And that's the water inside your cells. So for your cells to properly function, they need to be hydrated. Now, the really interesting thing about saturated fat is for every 1 pound of saturated fat you eat, your body makes 1.1 pounds of water.
Wow.
So that's the
good. I had a lot of bacon this morning, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And for your bacon, you want to cook it as little as possible.
Okay.
Now, the reason bacon is actually a health food, provided you eat pastured bacon, is because animals are very good at depleting deuterium. And so are plants. But you want to eat the right part of the plant. So I'm going to answer your question about water. And the reason I'm doing all this, going in this roundabout way, is to help answer that question.
Okay.
So bacon, back to bacon, bacon is actually very healthy because pigs fed a natural diet their fat is very deuterium depleted. So by eating bacon and cooking it very little, eating lots of that saturated fat, your cells, you have more material or food for your cells to make more of that metabolic water, which is deuterium depleted. Now, the more deuterium you have in your cells, the less energy you make, the less water you make. So back to your question, how much water do I drink? I used to drink 3 liters. Lately, I've been eating more fat, and I've been having around 1 liter water each day, because even if I drink, let's say, Icelandic water, which is about 135 to 140 parts per million of deuterium, that's still higher than an ideal level of deuterium that you want for optimal performance. So ideally, you want your body to be in a range of 120 to 130 parts per million. So by drinking less water, I'm adding less deuterium to the system. Eating more fats is a way for my body to naturally deplete deuterium.
Now that makes sense. Thank you, Nathan. I didn't quite get why because he didn't really explain in the video I was watching why he didn't drink as much water. He did, but maybe I just didn't quite get it at the time.
Yeah, you have to hear some of these things a couple times. So I've been experimenting probably for the past 3, maybe 4 weeks, and I'm drinking a little more water now just because I've been congested and I'm stuffy and I'm breathing through my mouth more, so it makes me feel thirstier. But I adapted pretty quickly to do it about 1 liter of water a day, and I was feeling good. And I was peeing less. I was definitely I usually don't pee during the night, but by drinking less water during the day, lots of times, when I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, I got to go. I would wake up in the morning and just really not have that urge to go. It was there, but not like before. So it's been kind of an interesting hack, and I'm going to continue to do it for another, couple of months, and just kind of see how things go. But I'm always, experimenting, trying different things, and, always trying to learn that next thing to kind of help not take just me to my next level, but to help my clients as well.
What type of other healthy fats do you like to eat?
So any fat from seafood, pork fat, beef fat from grass-fed cattle. I'll sometimes cook with duck fat. Lamb. I'll eat some lamb as well. I eat very little poultry.
So coconut oil would be something too?
Yeah, coconut oil, olive oil, ghee, grass-fed butter.
And all that stuff makes everything taste so good, folks,
Yeah, absolutely. So back to plants. So the green part of plants also deplete deuterium.
Oh, okay.
So greens are good. But so plants, what do they do with that depleted deuterium? It goes to their fruits. So fruit in the wintertime when they don't grow is not a good idea because it's loaded in deuterium. So deuterium is actually it's actually a good thing. So babies are very high in deuterium because deuterium is very pro-growth. So a baby, child has a lot of growth and development. So at that part of the life, deuterium is good. But once you stop growing, Then you want to have lower levels of deuterium, because if you continue to grow, you're essentially aging faster.
Okay.
So by eating things like fruits and certain vegetables, so green leafy vegetables are good, cruciferous vegetables are good. They're all very low in deuterium. But a cucumber, it's loaded with seeds, and it has a high water content. That water in the cucumber is very high in deuterium. So having a cucumber, I asked a lot of people this. I kind of gave it away already, but in December, what are you better off eating, a cucumber or bacon?
Bacon sounds a whole lot better.
Yeah, bacon, hands down.
Yeah. But, for me, when it comes to wintertime, I just want to eat a lot of meat, and and stuff that's like warm to my body. And summertime, I do actually crave more fruit at that time. So it's better to eat the fruit in the summertime.
Yeah, when things are in season. So right. Fruit in summertime that grows where you live. So pineapples, they don't grow in Seattle. They don't grow in New York either, where I live.
Too bad.
Occasionally have some pineapple, bananas. So tropical fruits you want to avoid. There are some exceptions. So like lemons and limes, I'll eat those year round. They don't have any glucose. They're not high in deuterium. They're loaded in vitamin C and other polyphenols and flavonoids and things like that. Mm-hmm. But sweeter fruits, especially tropical ones, you want to limit unless you live there where they grow. Or if you go
somewhere in Miami or something.
Yeah. So when you go on vacation to the beach, you're in that environment, so you can eat that food that grows there. So when you go down to wherever you like to go to the beach, if bananas grow there, eat a banana. If pineapples grow there, eat that. That's fine.
Right. So much to learn. So tell us a little bit about how people can get a hold of you so they can optimize their health. I mean, there's so many people out there with so many different conditions now, and knowing that there's just simple ways that they can improve their health and improve it quickly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is journeytooptimalhealth.com. My website's pretty far behind. I post more of my content on Facebook. So if you just search Nathan Walz on Facebook, you can find me there. I have a YouTube channel. So if you just search Nathan Walz on YouTube, you can find my channel there, where I've done quite a few videos. But for those people that want a little more hand-holding or coaching than you get from a video or from reading a blog post, I do have a mentorship program. So in that program, I provide people coaching, accountability, and I guide them through 4 key elements that I call my optimal health protocol. So element number 1 is self-image design. So the first thing I help people with is their self-image, which is really just your mental blueprint of how you see yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing with self-image is a lot of us have picked up these subconscious programs throughout our life that aren't helping us and that are holding us back. So you've probably heard of limiting beliefs, but when you're a kid, if one of your teachers, if you're struggling to read a sentence and your teacher calls you stupid, or, if a parent says you'll never amount to anything, we're very impressionable as children, and that becomes a belief in your subconscious mind that guides a lot of your behaviors and your actions throughout your life. Mm-hmm. So in self-image design, I help my clients identify their limiting beliefs, remove those beliefs, and add in new beliefs that are aligned with the person that they want to become. Because I'm sure we've all been through these, we hear about something that we know can help us, we try it out, we get some good results, and then a stressful thing happens in our life, right? Next thing we know, we're back to our old ways.
Right.
And the reason is your self-image kicked in. So the first thing I help people with is improving their self-image, so they have subconscious programs that are guiding their actions and behaviors in a way that's going to help them and help them achieve what they want to achieve. So part 2 is energy optimization. So really teaching people the best nutrition, the best biohacks, the best movement, different breathing techniques to help people optimize their mitochondrial health and help their body create more energy. Okay, so element number 3 is my brain-gut protocol. Pretty much everyone in the US and a lot of people around the world have a leaky gut. So when you have inflammation in your gut, that means you have inflammation in your brain, and vice versa. So you can like hit your head, let's say you're playing sports or you just whack your head on something, that inflammation in your brain translates to inflammation in your gut. You make a lot of hormones in your gut, so that can completely mess up your hormones. So between people not getting natural light, people having a leaky gut, a lot of us are going around with very suboptimal hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So in my brain gut protocol, I help people repair their gut and also repair that brain gut communication, because your brain is what tells your gut to release enzymes when you eat vegetables,
Right.
to release bile when you eat fat.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not communicating, you're not going to get that release. You're not going to break down your food. You're not going to get those nutrients. It'll lead to all sorts of issues.
Okay.
That's my brain gut protocol. And then number 4 is just lifestyle integration. So teaching people to integrate these new habits and behaviors to make them a part of their life. So being a healthy person or being super motivated is who they are instead of who they're trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
So really just coaching people through helping them create this new lifestyle, making sure they're not taking on too many things at once,
Right.
and making sure they're doing these things in the right order.
Yeah, because we can't change everything all at once. That would just be too overwhelming and nobody would ever get there. So a little bit at a time always goes a long way, right?
Absolutely.
One thing I forgot to touch on was exercise, and that's really important. How important is that compared to the light and the nutrition, that sort of thing?
Well, I like to call it movement over exercise.
Gotcha.
A lot of people hear exercise and they think going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So exercise can be a very good thing. It can be a bad thing. I was talking to a woman not too long ago who told me she'd been working out 2 nights a week for a year and hadn't lost a single pound. And to her, it was not obvious at all. To me, it was obvious. Yeah. So she was working in a gym with all of these fluorescent lights at night. Wow. So she was getting all this really bad light exposure, was throwing off her circadian rhythm, and of course she wasn't getting any results. So exercise at the right time in the right environment is great. At the wrong time and the wrong environment can actually do more harm than good. So it's very, like, walking is great. Anything that gets you outside, anything that you enjoy doing. Because the other thing about the gym is a lot of people hate the gym. They hear their doctor tells them they have to exercise. They think, okay, I have to go sign up to a gym and do the treadmill every day, which puts off a shit ton of EMFs. If you're major like a treadmill.
I can only imagine, yeah.
Yeah. And like all the bikes at my gym have these big monitors on them, which is kind of cool. It gets people to do the biking because it, has them going through trails and stuff. Or people are on the treadmills in front of these huge flat screen TVs.
Right.
So exercise important. Just get outside and, going, if you can only go for a walk and it gets you outside, that's great exercise.
Go for a bike ride. Go kayaking, whatever, right?
Yeah, anything that gets you outside and that gives you enjoyment. And it depends on where you are too. If you're extremely out of shape, you're going to do different exercise than someone that's in decent shape.
Right. Of course, yeah. I know for me, I've tried the gym and I've tried working out from home, and all those things never really worked as well. Because I really enjoy yoga, so I go to a yoga studio, but they just do it by candlelight, which is really cool.
Oh, that's nice.
All
that's
the
great.
Fresh air in. Yeah,
cool.
And I like to go on hikes and things like that, so I think I'm headed in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, going in that cold lake, you can, spending the same amount of time in cold water, you can burn more calories than running a marathon.
Wow.
And you're not creating all this inflammation from, running this long distance. So you can actually get in much better shape by not moving or just kind of lightly swimming around in a cold lake. And for running, for which most of us is like the most boring thing in the world. If that's your thing, great. But, just getting yourself in that cold water, that has so many benefits too.
And you've seen those people that run like 100 miles through the mountains, and I don't know what they call it, all these different competitions that they have now. And they're just destroying their bodies. Oh my God, it's horrible.
Yeah, but my chiropractor is a big endurance racer. I don't know how the guy
Ooh.
does it. There's a guy, I do go to a gym. The main reason I go there is just to do some things that I can't do outside of a gym
Hmm.
and to use the sauna. That's another thing. If you're a member of a gym, make sure it has a sauna and use the sauna, the dry sauna, not the wet sauna or the
Right.
steam sauna. But there's a guy I know from my sauna. He does these 100-mile runs and these, crazy bike rides and all that stuff. And it's just like, dude, you're slowly killing yourself.
Yeah. I mean, they really enjoy it. I mean, the people who are into
Yeah.
it, they're just totally, I mean, that's just what they love to do. And I get it. And I think it's really admirable that they can run that far, but I just don't see myself doing that to my body. So, also what I thought was really fascinating is when I went to Los Angeles, they had these bars outside right on the beach and the rings, and people would be out there doing yoga or doing pull-ups and that sort of thing. And I thought that was a really great way to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's excellent.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Anything that gets you outside, Taz, that's great.
so tell us to find out for this final thing here on the podcast, tell people out there, what are some things that you suggest that they can do right away to slowly, just a couple things that you think are the most important for them to slowly change their health so that they start feeling more energy?
Get up and watch the sunrise, or just get out. If you can't actually see the sun, just be outside at sunrise and get that natural light in your eyes.
Okay.
If you're able to, ground. So take your shoes off and walk around. It can be on grass. It can be on concrete. You can't ground on asphalt because the petroleum in asphalt blocks the magnetic field, but just on any kind of natural substance or concrete.
Okay.
Take breaks. If you're inside an office all day, I'm sure most of you have some people in your office that smoke. And just kind of note how often smokers go out for a smoke break. And when you see a smoker go out for a smoke break, go out for a sun break. Do maybe a loop around your building, or just go for a quick, brisk 2 or 3 minute walk, glasses up, or, if you're really blind, just kind of down here so you're getting that natural light in your eyes, and see what kind of a difference that makes. Stop waking up with your cell phone. Mm-hmm. Something else is create a morning routine where that first 30 minutes of the morning is yours. It's not your boss's time for you to check your email. It's not your time to go on Facebook and get stressed out about politics or posts that your friends are doing. It's your time to dedicate to you to ensure that you have a great day. So even if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you feel like crap, you do your morning routine, you have some practices that are going to put you in a great mood, that are going to position you to make every day a great day.
Awesome.
Once the sun goes down, minimize your exposure to electronics, get some blue blockers. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, go to Amazon, get some UVX blue blockers. They're $10. But it's a very important investment. So to get some quality blue blockers, you're going to have to spend $100 or so. And a lot of people kind of cringe at that, but it's a huge investment in your health. $100 is a lot cheaper than going blind, getting cancer, getting diabetes, anything like that.
Yeah, because it messes with your insulin levels, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of scratched the surface, and I didn't want to get too technical, but it alters all kinds of hormones in your body. Right.
Wow, that's. I know there was a lot of information here, everybody, and we went through so many different things. But again, if you want to get in contact with Nathan, be sure you can email him or Facebook message him, and he would be glad to help you along the journey to better health, a better life, and where you're feeling just amazing inside because you have your hormones right, you're connected to nature, and you're feeling so much better. And I think it's amazing that you had the ability, Nathan, to go and decide that, your doctor quite didn't get you there where you wanted. And so you went to a functional doctor, and that still quite didn't get you where you wanted, but you were not giving up. You didn't quit on you. You didn't quit on your health. And you went to a point where nobody was really talking about any of these things. but you decided to try it out, to take the faith, to take the leap, and look where you are now. I mean, it's amazing where you are now, and I commend you for that.
Yeah, well, Taz, thanks so much. I'm really glad you brought that up. But I know a lot of people out there are dealing with some very serious health issues. There's a lot of people in really rough shape, but never, ever give up hope.
No.
Never stop looking for answers until you're feeling the way you want to feel.
Exactly.
So there are solutions out there. If you ask somebody an opinion on something, if you see a medical professional and they tell you one thing and you don't like the answer, ask somebody else until you get the answer you want.
Until you get the feeling that you want inside too, right? Yeah. Until
it's got to start with you. You need to have that faith, and you need to be willing to make some changes. A lot of these things in the beginning, it wasn't easy for me doing a lot of these things. But I was at the point where I was so frustrated and I just couldn't go on living the way I was living, feeling the way I was feeling. So never give up hope. Put yourself first. And lots of times putting yourself first doesn't mean watching that extra Netflix show. It means turning it off, getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah, read a book before you go to bed or listen to some cool music, whatever, but turn off the Wi-Fi.
Yes.
All right, Nathan, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all the information, all the knowledge you put out there for everybody. And you have an awesome day. The sun is actually coming out here in Seattle, so I'm going to take my dog and go for a walk.
Oh, good for you. Well, Taz, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.